friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and we have got quite the episode set up for you. First of all, happy Father's Day. I'm wearing a flannel shirt because that's what my dad used to wear. All right, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I hope you're able to watch some golf or go golfing or go out on the boat or whatever it is that makes you happy. You should go do it because I know most of you fathers are working really, really hard right now. We have got a jam-packed episode right here, right now. So I'm going to get right into it. And we're going to be covering Biden's trip to Europe. Now, Biden went to Europe, and, you know, Biden may or may not be losing some cognitive ability. I've played you examples of him on the Senate floor in the 70s and 80s. I've played you him as a vice president in the 2000s. I mean, I do believe he's lost a step, whether that means he's totally incoherent and incapable of fulfilling his duty, or if he's just a little bit not as sharp as he once was. I'll let you guys have your own opinion on that. But, like I said in the little live shot, I didn't cover Biden falling on the stairs. And to be honest, I didn't really love the coverage. Now, if it's a satirical thing where you're going to play some kind of song and go back and forth and watch him fall and make it a joke, that's one thing. But to seriously be talking about he shouldn't be president because he didn't make it up the stairs, you know, I don't think any of us have gone our whole life without falling on some stairs before. And it's just like sinners, right? Let him without sin cast the first stone. If you've never tripped, then if you've ever tripped, you have no place to make fun of Trump sliding down a ramp. You have no place to make fun of Trump, Biden running up a set of stairs. I don't think that was indicative of anything except for the fact that he was trying to run too fast and his feet got out behind him. But when Biden goes on a trip to Europe, meets with Putin, has a G7 summit with the most powerful world leaders in the world, then everything he says and does matter. He represents America. He represents you. He represents me. What he says, what he portends as his values, what actions he wants done, how he interacts with Vladimir Putin or any of the other world leaders is a reflection on you and me. And therefore, if he's at the G7 and he falls, I will be talking about it. If he gets lost in a cafe and his wife has to say, oh, come on, Joey, you know, this way, we do have to address it. It's not the same thing as him doing so at a cafe in Delaware. All right, so the week started out with Biden doing a press conference or, you know, making an address and then taking some questions. And what's really, really scary is not only is Joe Biden walking around with index cards that are giving him his talking points, which, you know, I have right here, I have a list of what video clips I'm going to play. I'm not writing what my opinion is or what policy I want to talk about or anything like that. I know my stuff. I'm winging it because I believe in it. It's either truth or a strong belief on my part. So I don't have to script out what I'm going to say. I believe it. The podcast is going to be over and I'm going to be thinking about it, talking about it on Facebook, talking about it to other people. It's the same thing. But yet Biden needs to be reminded how he thinks and feels about certain things. And after taking a look at this clip, you're going to be well aware of what his handlers or puppeteers or whatever you want to call them want him to focus on. So if we could play the tape and pause it, it's about the 20-second mark when we'll really be able to see what it is that he's got on his index cards. This is Joe Biden. Play tape.
Joe Biden fiddles with a flashcard of anti-Trump talking points during a press conference in England. Biden brandishing the card labeled DOJ talking points while speaking Sunday in Cornwall. The cards include a number of pre-planned answers. That's including a claim that Trump,
And
quote,
can you pause
abused.
it right there? All right, guys. This is the Department of Justice providing Biden with his talking points. This is the same Department of Justice that just proclaimed that white supremacy and white nationalists are the biggest threat to our country domestically. Let me remind you, in 2020, 19 people were killed by white nationalists or white supremacists. That's disgusting. But it's 19 people in a country. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you bring up that thing? And I just want to see what's on his talking points. Yeah. Is there any chance you could show that on the screen? I'll get through it right quick for you so that way you can queue up the next video. I just want to give you all an opportunity at home to see that all of his talking points are Trump bashing. Not only do they write it somewhere on the paper, but every single talking point is about how we got to blame Trump for this and blame Trump for that. That is the I wish the Department of Justice was more concerned with getting justice in our country for victims of crimes. Whether you're talking about in Chicago or you're talking about, he's in England. Trump is not the president, and Trump might have had a big mouth on Twitter, but his policy was pretty damn good. It was pro-America, and even if you don't agree with it, it at least put us in a good position. Why the Department of Justice insists on making 3 different talking points about Orange Man bad? This is supposed to be what the media does, runs away with stupid stuff and narratives and won't let go of it, and bad Trump. This is the President of the United States with talking points from our Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the most important legal arms in the world. I'm sorry, thank you very much. You guys get to see it firsthand. And what do you think other world leaders think? I mean, I'm just a podcaster and I'm telling you how I feel and think. These other world leaders, they don't get talking points from handlers. They don't get reminded of what to say. They say what they believe, and they say what's best for their own personal interests. Hopefully those personal interests are the welfare of the country. Now, when we started getting inundated with this fake news, I realized that some of the best coverage, whether you're talking about election integrity or you're talking about some of the key words that'll get you banned regarding the coronavirus, whether it's hydroxychloroquine or you're talking about the doctors and lab coats or whatever their name was, there's certain things that you just are not allowed to talk about in America. But they're allowed to talk about it in Australia and New Zealand. And I was finding the best coverage of our elections from Australian and New Zealand news sources. And anytime you want to know what the world is truly thinking about us, candidly, tune into some of these news sources in Australia and New Zealand. Here's an Australian news anchor talking about our press. And when you see that they have more freedom of press, more freedom of speech, and more honest, candid dissection of our media in New Zealand and Australia than we do of our own, it should concern you. Play a tape.
Now, because the media has been gushing as their beloved Joe Biden prepares for his trip to the United Kingdom to attend the G7 summit. Listen to how CNN is reporting this momentous event.
Joe Biden is stepping onto the world stage for the first time as president, and equal to foreign leaders.
Now, let's go back in time to 2018 and see if those same newsrooms offered the presidency of Donald Trump such light and positive coverage.
Dramatic and deepening G7 divide, better put perhaps as G6 versus 1.
Sophie, they're essentially they're calling it the G6 when Trump's there, but Joe Biden's there, and it's momentous and it's positive and it's glowing, and they're trying to give the illusion that he doesn't have any disputes with any of these international leaders. What do you think of that?
I just think Joe Biden is a lucky person. He has got all the media on his side, or most of the media on his side, particularly CNN, completely at odds with what they did to Trump. So, his popularity surely can only win from this because he's getting so much positive PR through the journalists who are massive fans of him. It's really quite appalling to watch. And what happened to straight news reporting, which doesn't seem to be existent?
Guys, Australians who got all their guns confiscated in a buyback program are appalled by the media coverage. They're mocking us. I mean, we should be the beacon, the greatest shining example of a free press, of a free society. And we have Australians who are not supposed to be as free as Americans appalled at the coverage. I mean, everybody sees right through it. I understand the 5% of the woke Americans that are totally brainwashed are digging the coverage by CNN. But anybody, I'm telling you, I see it when Hannity starts gushing over Trump a little bit too much. I get sick. I feel like, Hannity, take it down a notch. I wish you wouldn't be, so in the pocket of Trump. But CNN does it full bore, constantly. And you think that these journalists are the only ones who feel this way? I mean, I'm telling you, other world leaders, whether you're talking about Putin or Lee, or you're talking about, insignificant countries or insignificant populations, some, Eastern European people watching the news, everybody sees it. And it's a disgrace to journalism as a whole. I went to journalism school. You don't make yourself part of the story, you don't script the news, and you do your best to come off as unbiased. Let's hear what else the Australian News Corps thinks about this. Play tape.
There.
Nick, it's not really journalism, is it? It's they're stenographers in a way, aren't they? They're documenting history, but they're not being critical. But with Trump, ultra critical, inflammatory in some ways.
Always. Trump could do no right. I mean, give Biden his due. He did get to the top of the Air Force One steps without tripping over his shoelace.
Good on him.
But look, I mean, the reality is, if you talk to Greg Sheridan on The Australian or anybody who knows about foreign affairs, there are considerable question marks over Biden's foreign affairs policy. It's not proven yet. Whereas it was the one area, in fact, in which Donald Trump did very well, pivoting on China, bringing about the Abraham Accords, which is a big step towards peace in the Middle East. The worry about Biden is whether he really does have control or really the nerve or the confidence to impose American power in the way that Trump did. So, I would be much happier to see Donald Trump at the G7, I think.
I want to go to the US now.
And, once you get through the fluff of the feelings and everything, you get a real political correspondent. He's interested in Australia's well-being. Australia and everybody else hope for, pray for, strive for a strong America. Because I don't know how many people really realize it. The reason we don't have world wars or many wars at all compared to other times in human history is because we are the superpower. And I don't care if you're talking about warmongers like Dick Cheney, or you're talking about libertarians like Rand Paul, or you're talking about, Democrats. We are a good people. Even the most evil of us don't hold a light to the evil dictators of the world in history. And we have always been pretty peaceful, and we've maintained that peace. And if we lose our standing as a superpower, the rest of the world is worried because they know China or Russia, which Russia is not a threat to become a superpower. China has the economy, has the population, has the military. Russia, frankly, does not. All right? So to keep comparing Russia and China in the same breath is really a disservice to the viewer because it makes it seem like they're almost the same thing, which they're not. The only one really that compares to us is China right now. And that's where our concentration should be. We should look at Russia the same way we look at India. Italy. You know, they got about the same economy, the same military. You know, Russia may have a few more nuclear weapons, but, you know, we're not scared of Italy. We should be worried about China, not Russia. All right? But when the whole world needs a strong America to maintain the peace, because if we're not the superpower and somebody else is, the world is a darker place and a more dangerous place. All right. So then Biden finally got to the G7 summit, and this was the original meet and greet. And I've seen conservatives, I've seen progressive news outlets all cover this particular clip. Let me give it to you the way only the Johnny Brew Show does. First, take a look at this play tape.
And just say how pleased I am to welcome those who have just joined us, bringing some pretty spectacular weather with them. Prime Minister Modi, President Ramaphosa, President Moon, in just a minute, and the President of South Africa, and the President of South Africa, as I said earlier. Oh, you did? I did not. I said. Well, you get to mention twice, so I'll go over that again. Let me tell you.
All right. Now, you all heard, if you could leave that on the screen just for a second, you all heard about how Joe Biden got confused and stuff like that. And as I watched the entire clip, you realize that they were talking to the media, and the leader of England was introducing everybody to the media. And I think, if I'm not, and I very, very well could be mistaken, that Joe Biden might have thought that the introduction of I think it was the South African leader, was done before the media started rolling or something. So Joe Biden was trying to be inclusive and make sure, oh, don't forget about, this person. And he, the way he sticks out his head, they all laugh and chuckle, and I don't think Joe Biden was necessarily the butt of a joke like the conservative media want you to say. But my problem is the way the leader of Britain goes and calms Joe Biden down. The way he holds out his hand and says, calm down, like you would to a puppy or to your child. This is what we hated about Trump. The way Trump would force his way to the front of the crowd, or the way that Trump would tell people to calm down. Now, these are peers. I would prefer it if nobody was acting stronger or bigger than somebody else. But if it had to be one way or the other, I would much rather have Trump calming people down than have people calming down Joe Biden. The way they interact, like I said, I think they are over-exaggerating them laughing at Joe Biden, because I don't really think it was that sinister or as bad as conservative media is doing. But everybody's overlooking the way Biden is handled by the leader of Great Britain. And that's what I took away from that. Thank you very much for playing that. And this is an ongoing theme. Like I said, I'm not going to show the clip of Joe Biden getting lost in the cafe. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the leader of Great Britain, Boris Johnson. Because he's boisterous. He's, he kind of looks like Trump. But he's dangerous. All right? And you listen to what he has to say, and then we'll talk about it together. This is Boris Johnson at the G7 summit. Play tape.
But it is vital that we don't repeat the mistake of the last great crisis, the last great economic recession in 2008, when the recovery was not uniform across all parts of society. And I think what's gone wrong with this pandemic, or what risks being a lasting scar, is that I think that inequalities may be entrenched. And we need to make sure that as we recover, we level up across our societies and we build back better.
All right, guys, he's saying all the words that should set off alarm bells. Equity, building back more equitable. Do you know what they mean by that? You do understand when Donald Trump was in office, the world was going through a recession as we were getting better and better economically. And that's because we had an America First policy to have the best economic situation in our country. And Donald Trump pulled out all the stops to have good economic policy. And they don't like this. They want a piece of that. But they're not willing to do the things that Donald Trump was willing to do. Obviously, Joe Biden, anything that was Donald Trump got axed. So they want it to be more equitable so that way when America continues to grow, even when the rest of the world is going through the recession, they want everybody to get a piece of that. But what they don't understand is if you don't have Donald Trump, you can't get somebody who's going to make things more equitable for the rest of the world and then get a piece of the prosperity that America is getting when they're not playing the equitable games. The other key word, build back better. All right? That's the thing. And I don't know if you're a conspiracy theorist and you call it a plandemic, where you say that the coronavirus was started on purpose so we could have the Great Reset. But whether intentional or not, or done on purpose or done in order to achieve this goal, they're not going to let a crisis go to waste. So if it was unintentional, intentional, it doesn't matter. Now that build back better is like, okay, we're playing this hand we're dealt. Now let's try to institute some of these equitable, whole world one type of thing. And, it goes back to you can't have open borders and be a welfare state. You can't do both. All right, this is another thing. You can't be equitable and have America take care of the rest of the world if America is not going to institute policy that enables them. And listen for those key words, guys. Equitable, build back better. I'm sorry. Play tape.
And I actually think that we have a huge opportunity to do that, because as G7, we are united in our vision for...
Your vision for what?
For a cleaner, greener world, a solution to the problems of climate change. And in those ideas, in those technologies, in which we're all addressing together.
All right. If you didn't get the keywords in the first part, surely you caught the keywords in the second part. Greener, climate change. We're all here together for the same reasons. Let me remind you, I remind you every single episode, we are 1.5 degrees Celsius less than the history of the world average temperature of the Earth. So there's nothing to worry about. There's no emergency. I know AOC told you in 2015 that the world was going to end in 12 years. So I understand 2027 is only 6 years away. We're halfway there. So the world is going to end, according to all the climate people. It's not going to end. When the banks stop financing coastal property, when the insurance companies stop insuring coastal property, that's the moment I will start to consider climate change being an issue, because that's not happening. But yet we're going to build back better, we're going to build back greener, we're going to build back more equitable. And if we don't stand up to it, the whole world is going in this direction, and we are going to be a class system. 1%, 99%. I would rather have some gray area and some upward mobility. All right, what else does he have to say? Play tape.
I think there is the potential to generate many, many millions of high-wage, high-skill jobs. And I think that is what the people of our countries now want us to focus on. They want us to be sure that we're beating the pandemic together and discussing how we'll never have a repeat of what we've seen, but also that we're building back better together and building back greener and building back fairer and building back more equal and how shall I, in a more gender neutral and perhaps a more feminine way. How about that, apart from anything else?
What the... For any of you who don't really know this Boris Johnson, there you go. In 60 seconds, he laid it out to you. All right? He has no spine. He is a jellyfish. He is molded into whoever is funding him. I don't know if it's Soros or Gates or Zuckerberg. I bet you there's Rothschilds and Rockefellers. I'm sure there's things that I have no idea about that are pulled, but these leaders, we all here in America know. I don't care if you're the biggest Joe Biden supporter that's ever walked the earth. You know he's being told what to do and what to say. I showed the proof. He's got index cards. He didn't write those index cards to remind himself. Somebody else wrote them. Boris Johnson, all he did was go right down the progressive checklist. Build back greener, build back better, build back more equitable, fairer, more gender neutral, feminism. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got nothing against girls. I got nothing against a clean environment. Don't get me wrong. But these are talking points. They're high skill, high wage jobs. They're full of it. That's a talking point to make you feel like, yes, he cares. I wanna be high skilled and I wanna be high wage, don't you? These are just things to tickle you, to make you feel good. It's that boring. I'm sorry. All right, and now here I go. I told you I'm not going to make fun of Joe Biden tripping up the stairs. All right, he makes mistakes. Joe Biden has a stutter. All right? Sometimes it happens in inopportune times when you're trying to portray strength. But for the most part, if he stutters a little here and there, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. If he makes a little gaffe here and there, I don't like it, but it is what it is. Now, he is speaking to the world. This isn't a press conference letting you know what happened in some meeting with the FBI. And this is on the world stage talking about something that affects almost every country in the world. And it's in preparation for his meeting with Putin. And the number one thing that's going on over the past, say, 10 years is Syria. Who do we back with the Kurds, or do we stay out of it? And the Russians are backing Assad, and did Assad gas his own people? And it's right next to Israel. I mean, Syria is still not really even fully understood what's going on. And here's Biden, and I'm well aware of what Syria is and where Syria is and how important Syria is. This is Joe Biden on the world stage. Not only is every citizen in the world listening to what he says, but every world leader, every diplomat, everybody who is involved in world affairs, important people are all listening to every word he says. And this is what he says. Play tape.
We could work together with Russia. For example, in Libya, we should be opening up the passes to be able to go through and provide food assistance and vital assistance to a population that's in real trouble. I think I'm going to try very hard to. It is. And by the way, there's places where I shouldn't be starting off and negotiating in public here, but let me say it this way. Russia has engaged in activities which we believe are contrary to international norms, but they have also bitten off some real problems they're going to have trouble chewing on. And for example, the rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, they're there. And as long as they're there without the ability to bring about some order in the region, and you can't do that very well without providing for the basic economic needs of people. So I'm hopeful that we can find an accommodation where we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya, where.
All right. I mean, it's not cute. I mean, his little, I shouldn't do this or I'm going to get in trouble for that. That might be cute when he's on the lawn of the White House and he's talking to the press and saying, oh, I'm not supposed to say this. This is an official, big deal. All right? And he's, not only is he saying Libya instead of Syria, but even he reminds himself, oh, it is Syria. And then he says, oh, no, Libya. And Libya is very important. Funny you should bring Libya up by accident. Huh, Joe? Everybody in America is talking about slavery, right? I mean, we've had it gone for 170-something years. We just celebrated Juneteenth, which, word up, sounds good to me. Now all Americans are free the way it should be. And Abraham Lincoln started the Republican Party in order to abolish slavery. And Juneteenth celebrates the Republicans sending in the Union Army to Texas, who have had, a red state, who have had Juneteenth as a holiday for 40 years now, reminding us of when the Union Army went in to save the slaves from the Democrats who started a civil war to preserve slavery. And in Libya, they have slavery right now. Right now, there is a slave in Libya, and they're doing one of two things. They're either sleeping or they're working, because they are slaves in 2021. So if you got a problem with slavery and you want to be an activist, instead of calling a white guy like me, my grandparents came in the 1900s. Slavery was already gone. So my grandparents did not own slaves in America. I'm so sorry to break the news. I am white. I know, that makes me evil. But my lineage never owned slaves. Maybe they did in Japan or Germany in one point in time. But I'm not the problem. I wasn't here in 1820, neither was my family. But if you want to do something about slavery, let's go to Libya. Let's snuff out slavery once and for all. Let's go to China, where they have concentration camps. Like the Holocaust had concentration camps. You're worried about people comparing things to the Holocaust and how inappropriate it is? How about I compare concentration camps for Muslims in China to the concentration camps in Germany and Poland against the Jews? It's literally, I can compare those, okay? So if you're against hate, if you're against slavery, Libya, thank you, Joe, for reminding me. China, that's going on right now. Also, Joe Biden needs to be sharper. Whatever they gave him, I don't know if they gave him cocaine, Adderall, Ritalin, all three, speedball, crack, I don't know. They gave Joe Biden something before his second debate with Trump. And they need to give him that stuff, whatever that was, while he's over there representing you and me. All right, so this is another something. And like I said, I know Syria because Syria is an important thing, right? I also know about our founding documents. I could pretty much recite the introduction or the, what do they call it? The preamble to the Constitution. the first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. These are the things that make America America. And Joe Biden, you remember he said, and our rights granted to buy, you know the deal. Come on, man. He couldn't even remember that our rights are granted to us from God. Well, here's Biden trying to showcase American power, American freedom, American ideals. And this is how it comes off. Play a tape.
How could I be the President of the United States of America and not speak out against the violation of human rights? I told him that unlike other countries, including Russia, we're uniquely a product of an idea. You've heard me say this before again and again. I'm going to keep saying it. What's that idea? We don't derive our rights from the government. We possess them because we're born, period. And we yield them to a government.
What did he just say? We possess these rights because we're born? Joe, I know you're a Catholic and you're an American. So you should know we derive our rights from God. I mean, you could make the analogy that, because we're born, God, whatever. It's very simple, though. You don't have to conflate it or confuse it. We derive our rights from God. God grants us those rights. And then, did he just say we yield our rights to the government? There's no way he could have said that. Can you go back like 10 seconds and just play that 10 seconds again and stop at the same spot? I just want to hear what he said, because there's no way he said we yield our rights to the government, because I don't do that. Play tape.
You've heard me say this before again and again. I'm going to keep saying it. What's that idea? We don't derive our rights from the government. We possess them because we're born, period. And we yield them to a government.
He did say that. And we yield them to the government. Raise your hand if you've yielded your rights to the government. Me neither. I'm not yielding my rights to the government, especially now. I ain't yielding my rights to the government. God gave me these rights and I'm not giving them away. How about that? My freedom to speak, my freedom to worship, my freedom to own a gun or to talk about whatever I want to whomever I'd like. I'm not yielding those rights. Can you please, let's see, maybe he gets it right. Let's see what else he's got to say. Play tape.
So the forum, I pointed out to him that that's why we're going to raise our concerns about cases like Alexei Navalny. I made it clear to President Putin that we'll continue to raise issues of fundamental human rights, because that's what we are. That's who we are. The idea is we hold these truths self-evident. All men and women. We haven't lived up to it completely, but we've always widened the arc of commitment and included more and more people.
I'm sorry. First of all, you can tell he doesn't know. For example, he says all men and women. That is a horrible thing to say, because when they say all men, men is a synonym for humans. Man is a human. And men is humans, plural. That includes women. Women are human. So sometimes if we say the rights of man, that means like the rights of Homo sapiens, aka humans, aka man. It doesn't mean for men and not for women. So to add the word and women it's implying that the original didn't include women, which I think is a disservice. Like I said, sometimes these people go too far with their anti male chauvinist thing or their anti racism thing, and they go so far that you realize wait a minute, am I saying that a black person isn't able to get an identification? That's more racist than asking somebody to get an identification, right? The bigotry of low expectations. And to say, that all men and women, and he doesn't finish it, were created equal. That's an important part. It doesn't say we all end equal. We all end in the same spot. All men and women deserve equity. That is not what it says. We are created equal and get our rights from God, Joe. And then government is here to make sure that those rights are protected. There's only one thing that our government is set up to do. It's set up to preserve our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we have laws because even though you're free, you're not free to infringe on my rights. That's why people say, we live in a free country. Why do we have any laws? Why is it against the law to commit murder? Because even though you might think I should be free to commit murder, that would be infringing on your rights of life. Why can't I kidnap you? If I'm free, I should be able to kidnap you. But that would take away your rights to liberty. I can't take your life, I can't take your freedom, and I can't take your pursuit of happiness. So I can't smack you, I can't spit on you. Even though I'm free, I'm not free to do that because that would be infringing on your rights. That's the singular objective of laws, is not to tell you what to do. It's just to preserve everybody's God-given rights. We have to have a law against robbery because if I rob you, your rights are being infringed upon. That's all it's supposed to be. And people are losing sight of the reason why we make laws. The government is supposed to be non-existent except for simply helping us maintain our God-given rights. And we've lost sight of that. And we don't ever yield our rights to the government. All right. This is really important. I'm going to play the tape and then I'll tell you. I'm not going to lead you in. Go ahead, play tape.
When President Putin was questioned today about human rights, he said the reason why he's cracking down on opposition leaders is because he doesn't want something like January 6th to happen in Russia. And he also said that he doesn't want to see groups formed like Black Lives Matter. What's your response to that, please?
My response is kind of what I communicated, that I think that's a ridiculous comparison. It's one thing for literally criminals to break through cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held on account.
Did he really just say that? There's no way he could have said that. Do you understand the significance of him saying that? It's not even the fact that he's bold-faced lying, because I think it was a slip of the tongue. The significance of it is that Joe Biden himself has been brainwashed by the media. He's the president of the United States, but he can't separate the propaganda from the nonfiction. He just said that a police officer was killed on January 6th. One person was killed on January 6th. Her name was Ashley Babbitt, and she was a veteran. She was crawling through a window, and somebody shot her. That is all I know. I've seen some video of people telling her to jump through the window, and I've heard rumors on Tucker Carlson that the reason why a lot of these people that we see in the videos, the very, very limited amount of videos that we have, that people who were breaking windows or encouraging or telling people where to go, 20% of the 300 or 400 people that broke into the Capitol haven't been arrested, although they've been identified on videotape. And they're saying that that's because these are FBI agents or informants or affiliated with federal law enforcement. And then they gave us examples of other times where they convinced people to do terrorist things and then stopped them at the last minute and publicly said that they took credit for squashing a plot which they themselves created. If any of that is true, I don't know. But for Joe Biden to say that a police officer was killed is like saying that it's an insurrection, which I saw an article just now about, I think it was Jesse Law or something, where he happened to be at January 6th insurrection. It wasn't an insurrection any more that the women with the vagina hats protesting against Kavanaugh's confirmation was an insurrection. They all trespassed and laid down. The people on January 6th even stayed within the velvet ropes where the vagina hat people didn't. Trespassing is wrong, and they should be prosecuted for what they did. And, you know, that's all I have to say about that. The bottom line is, our words matter. And Joe Biden, the president, can't separate the propaganda from the nonfiction. That's my simple point. All right, can you just replay that last 5 seconds when he lies, and then we'll hear the rest of the video? All right, play tape.
Literally criminals to break through cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable.
He did say it. Kill a police officer. Continue.
And it is for people objecting and marching on the Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely. You are not allowing me to do A, B, C, or D. And so they're very different criteria.
All right.
Steve.
First of all, he's trying to remember. He doesn't have the talking points. So right there, he's trying to remember the tenets of Black Lives Matter and Antifa and try to, say that they were protesting for something good. But he said, when you're protesting against, my right to speak and my right to A, B, C, and D, he couldn't think of the other things. And it was the Trump supporters or the conservatives who were complaining about, opening our businesses or being allowed to talk about hydroxychloroquine or talking about their concerns about the election. Those were the people who weren't allowed to speak and were fighting for their right to speak. There's never been a muzzle of any way, shape, or form on Black Lives Matter. They're celebrated in the media, on social media, Antifa. They can all post whatever they want. But a conservative saying that maybe hydroxychloroquine doesn't have a downside and has some potential to help you, you're like scarlet lettered, banned off of Facebook for 6 months. So his singular example was true about freedom of speech, and that's the stuff that the conservatives are protesting against. No progressives are arguing about free speech because they've got the platform. All right? And finally, I just want to finish off with Biden at the end of a press conference. If you go to 43 seconds in, we don't have to listen to the whole thing. This is one of the videos that you've probably all seen if you're following along, where Biden, on the way out of his press conference, he gets asked a question and he goes off script, and starts talking to the girl. And the girl asked him, what makes you think Putin's going to change his mind? And he's like, I never said Putin's going to change his mind, and yada, 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 yada. And then at the end, right before he walks out, he says something very interesting. And I just want you to imagine if Trump said the same thing to this female reporter at CNN. Play tape.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks, he downplayed human rights abuses, he even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin? You
don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
There you go. Can you go back 3 seconds and play that last line again? Listen closely. Right there, yeah.
How does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
Exactly. Thank you. Could you imagine if Trump turned to a female CNN reporter and said, if you don't understand that, you're in the wrong business, we would be talking about how horrible, how sexist he is to just dismiss somebody and say you're in the wrong business like that. I mean, you know, her question was a little redundant, and Biden's answer was worthless. But the way he dismisses people, and this is the one thing I've been saying all along, is you get a glimpse into how some of these people are. Whether you're talking about Hillary Clinton and her Secret Service agents that she was horrible with, to Joe Biden having female Secret Service agents but insisting on swimming in his pool naked every night and making the Secret Service agents watch him naked every night swimming in his indoor pool. And Trump, you know, was brash, right? But then when he went down to like Puerto Rico or Texas or Louisiana when they were having the hurricanes and stuff, and he was throwing out the paper towels and people were like, oh, he's being too, you know, cute. And he was talking to people in the hospital with coronavirus, and everybody always said the same thing. He's the same exact person all the time. He's open, he's kind, he's considerate, he's rough around the edges, he's sarcastic, he's bullish. Trump might not have been the best person in the whole world, and I don't want Trump to be my pastor, and, you know, Trump might not be your favorite person. I could totally see that. But I respect the fact that Trump is the same person at a press conference, on the golf course, at the G7, and on Twitter. What you see is what you get. These people, Biden is the cuddly old man until you back him into a corner, and then he starts jumping out and becoming the same person that was on the floor of the Senate in the 80s, saying the N-word, or talking about the death penalty, or talking about all the horrible things he said. All right? Don't let these two-faced, and almost all of them, Republicans, Democrats, they're all two-faced. And the one thing I respected about Trump and made me really like him was not the fact that I liked him, but the fact that I believed him, that what he said was how he truly felt. All right. Thanks so much. We're going to wrap this up. But this is Biden, his first trip to England. He was supposed to represent you and me and make things better for our country on the world stage. And I don't know of anything that he accomplished that's going to make our lives personally better. And I really, really fear about all the money that these 9 or 7 nations are going to raise and put together to fight for equity and climate change. I just don't know where all this money's going. But if you can open a business, an international corporation based on equity and climate change, and you know a politician, get to work, because things are going to be really good for you. The rest of us, I don't know what that means to us, but I pray, I hope it's all good. All right? Let me just remind you, you got The Meltdown with Darian Anthony, and you got The Rick Charles Show, both coming up right quick. All right? This portion was brought to you by Infinity, the Math Institute. Just go to themathinstitute.com to find out about our summer classes, and tutoring will begin, as usual, in August once school gets started. The website is themathinstitute.com, or you could call 702-768-1777. And I don't know how, I have to remind you every episode. I know a lot of you are watching the episodes on YouTube, and God bless you. Thank you so much. I need you to hit that subscribe button. That's like how I get ranked. You hit that subscribe button. It's more important than a good review. It's more important than anything. So if you're watching right now and you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button, and you'll just, I'm not going to put up no fluff, no crap, no nothing. It's always going to be great, hard-hitting truth, logic, good material. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, and anything else you do, I appreciate all that too. But subscribe to the YouTube channel. My name is John Brookhagen. This is the Johnny Brew Show. Thanks so much for watching.